All right, so we'll just start off with, I'm Evan Hafer, CEO and founder of Black Rifle Coffee.
Okay, well, you said it, so I don't need to say it, I guess. I'm Evan Hafer. I'm the CEO and founder of Black Rifle Coffee Company. And this is 11 questions and a cup of coffee. I make my coffee in several different ways, actually. My preferred method of making coffee is typically going to be in a pour-over device. It's either going to be a Hario pour-over device or a Chemex. Most of the time it's with a hand grinder, so Black Rifle Coffee has a hand grinder, and I'm partial to it because obviously I helped invent it, I guess. And I use a gooseneck kettle. Typically, the temperature range will be between 197 to 202. 197 on the low end if it's a lighter coffee, so I've been doing most of my lighter roast coffees in that temperature range. And then the darker roast coffees I'll hit like 200, 202. So just as a general rule of thumb for me, our lightest roast is 197. My darkest roast I run through at 202. At basically a 1:16 ratio across the board, with the granularity size is roughly salt. So some people go pepper, but I don't like it. You don't get a big, nice, big bloom out of that. Black, there's no other way, right? People don't drink their coffee any other way, do they? Not our coffee, not good coffee. Yeah. You don't put creamer in good coffee. That's just something you don't do.
I've had this conversation with people that say they put sugar or creamer in. I'm like, I understand that you do that if you're like getting like low quality coffee, but try fresh coffee and tell me that you don't like it better. And I've converted a few people.
That's like saying, how do you like your democracy with communism? They don't really work. Wow, that's an interesting question. The most bizarre or interesting place I've made coffee. Boy, I'd have to think about that. I think the most interesting place I've made coffee would probably be on a Humvee, and it was probably the invasion, I would imagine, because I had done it several times after that, roughly in similar circumstance. But when you're making a cup of coffee, when you're invading a country out in the middle of a desert off a vehicle, those are the special moments you remember, Marty. Oh, wow. The hardest thing I've done physically or mentally would say starting and running Black Rifle Coffee has been a physical and mental challenge for a combination of reasons. But it's all in perspective, right? Which is, I think, and I've told this to multiple people, which is I'd prefer to go back to like a Special Forces assessment and selection or the Q course and just do that like back-to-back concurrently than start Black Rifle Coffee again. And I think it's different, and people always say, well, why? Because there's no way that it's, starting a business and running a business is more difficult than these things. It is because you have a family. When you're working with a company and you're growing a company and you're mortgaging your houses and selling everything you own, and you're kind of just gambling that you're going to be able to pay the rent next month, and you're gambling with your children's college education and whether or not you can clothe and put food in their mouths. Like, there's something more psychologically difficult. Outside of that, I wouldn't say that any combat experience that I've had or military experience, those were difficult, but they were very individual endeavors, and they were with volunteers that were all kind of selected and pushed towards a certain mission. We were all on board with that. But your children haven't necessarily, volunteered to sign up for, poverty if daddy messes this up.
Draftees.
Yeah, they're draftees in that circumstance. So it's different. It's in business is what I've explained to people, business is like getting deeper into the water. So the further out you grow a business, the bigger it becomes, the deeper you get under the water. So if you make small mistakes, you're dead, essentially. And it's a constant amount of pressure that never really goes away, versus in most combat zones or scenarios, you'll get spikes of adrenaline, and then you'll crest down, and then you'll have time off or whatever that might be, and then you'll do it again and again. There's not a constant amount of consistent pressure that could have continues to build the bigger you grow your company too. My mission statement 5.5 years ago that still drives me today is to live a happy and fulfilling life. So individually, I think a person has to kind of assess what they're doing first, and I think you have to be happy. When I say that, how do you define happiness and how do you define fulfillment? What I've done now is I've tried to create an environment of love more than anything else. So I invest most of my time and energy in things that create a positive return, whether that's in good, fulfilling relationships with my peers and the subordinates, or with positive and loving environment for my family. I would say the majority of what drives me is the constant pursuit of creating a positive environment for my children, and then I would say my family, and then my business, and then me. So I'm the last one there in that line. Man, I don't know. Is there any misunderstandings that the me or the work that I do? I think probably the most misunderstood thing about being the CEO of Black Rifle Coffee is that it's fun and always fun. And trust me, it's my honor and privilege to serve the company, and I love it because I founded it. But the amount of pressure that is consistent, and it takes a lot. And when I say that, the psychological effects of running a company from your garage to where it is today in 5.5 years, that's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I think we create a value proposition within content where we're trying to create value, whether that's inspiration, information, or humor in most of our content. And sometimes that could be the perception that every day is just fun and games and happy-go-lucky environment. We just fire up our cell phones and make stupid videos and put them out on the internet. I think that the largest misconception to that is to create a positive value in anyone's lives with content or with a product. That takes a significant amount of work. And so when somebody enjoys a cup of coffee, they don't necessarily see all the work that goes into it. And when somebody enjoys a piece of content, they don't see all the work that goes into that. And you have two definitive things that have to connect in order for that experience to be incredible all the way through. And there's a layer of sophistication and an effort of work that is quite literally unparalleled to what people might imagine. Oh, that's easy. For me to define what success is your immediate impact on people has to be positive, and then your lasting legacy on people has to be positive. And so when you define what success and positivity, and then what type of legacy and value you want to create, it has to be one of the good proposition, right? So what is good? I always kind of go back to love. When you're a passionate person, I truly love my children, my family, I love coffee, not in the same way, right? And then most of the company, I truly do love the company, right? So the way I've defined success is if I can have my entire life, an ecosystem that surrounds me with the characteristics that I've just defined. So those are all good characteristics, and you'll probably notice that none of those things are directly represent profit. So you have to kind of come back and say, what is profit? What is success? Wealth in most Americans' eyes is if you're wealthy, you're successful, and that's absolutely untrue. Like most of the people that I know with large wealth, they're not happy people actually. And I think once you kind of get into the more the existential reality of creating wealth and then defining success for yourself, and if you build your entire existence around just creating profit and wealth, you're teed up for a long fall. But if you build wealth around creating happiness and love, you can't really fail. You really can't, because if you do fail and you don't create profit, you still have a bunch of people that really do love you. I think that mountains are always I'd always prefer the mountains over the ocean.
Why is that?
I'm just not an ocean guy, I know people love the ocean, but for me, I like altitude, I like the cold, I like kind of the bite of the morning, of frost, I like being able to, explore ridges and canyons and get out into the most remote wilderness areas of the United States and obviously other places. I think it comes back to where you grew up, where you really feel like you're empowered by reconnecting. And I've just never spent a lot of time either on the ocean or in the ocean enough to really connect with it and make it kind of a spiritual place, whereas the mountains are more spiritual for me. Wow, you could have any superpower. Typically I don't like dealing in fictions, I'm not, and I don't read a lot of or watch a lot of comic book superhero type thing. I think if I had a superpower, I think I would probably try to really, I think you'd have to almost combine the brain characteristics of like Elon Musk and Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawkins, and throw in a little Carl Sagan. If you could combine all of those brains, in order to quite literally, I think, unpack really, really complex things and really think in more of the theoretical advanced capacity. I think having advanced intellect would be probably the most, that would probably be my superpower. Like if I could have for me, I think it'd be like 1,000-time brain capacity. I don't know. I think you just have to increase brain capacity. I like mathematics. When I say that, I think that I take a significant amount of enjoyment if I have free time. Some people do like Sudoku or something like that, and I like to work through equations. I still like to just do, when I say this, I like to do like lots of equations fast, because I think that math helps in so many different ways. If you have a fundamental understanding of mathematics and formulas, and you can do a lot of different, more complex equations, or you at least understand it, so you can do it in your head, I think it really does keep a person more mentally aware. And then obviously anything that I can hit a target with, I enjoy. So it doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's a rifle or a pistol or a bow. I would say outside of that, I still do a little bit of like general pencil drawing, and I'm more of like when I do things that are outside of work, and outside of my children, outside of projectiles, it's drawing and math. Those are the two things I enjoy. It all depends on how the post-apocalyptic folds out, right? So, if you're in with some type of epicenter, then obviously you're dead. So I'm assuming that within this, we're all alive, right? So I'll just kind of say, best case scenario is that the event happens and then the environment isn't to the point of which that it's completely corrupted and you're going to be dead anyway, right? So if it's just chaos and anarchy that we have to survive and work our way through, right, outside of some kind of massive chemical effects and a few other things, I would say that I have a profound ability to survive, but I don't necessarily know I would lead it. I think when you're surviving in a chaotic post-apocalyptic situation, you would have multiple foes from exterior and interior, and I don't. And you would be also with your family in that endeavor. So I think I would probably just search to keep my family and myself alive for the extent, and those are the people that I would really try to just primarily focus on.
All right.
That's it?
Yeah.
Great, man.
Thanks for your time.